So after I saw Retribution, I did not have any high hopes for the final chapter, even though I could tell that this time, this is a case where the final chapter legitimately meant the final chapter, unlike various slasher movie franchises have done. So I started watching this, and I'm like, it doesn't align well with the previous movie again. And like, how do you do evil bats mutate into a pterodactyl with a stinger? Just what? This is ridiculous. But as the movie went along, I began to go, hey, this is getting a little bit better because we're focusing on the corporation again, and not just glasses. And we're getting some more backstory, even though I felt that it was kind of odd when I first learned this, although I had to be pointed out due to a commenter that I checked out on the ending of this movie that it's because they changed the backstory bit from the second one into this one. I want to point that out, yeah. And then they bring back Claire, and when I saw her, I was just like, yes! That was awesome that they brought her back, because the funny thing is, this legitimately marks the first time a character in this franchise has survived more than one movie. I know what you're thinking, Kmart and Jill. Well, here's the thing, though. The cliffhanger of Afterlife is really the only cliffhanger where any of the characters are in imminent danger, immediate danger, sorry, but what I'm getting at is that's a case where they have to survive the cliffhanger to really count that as surviving the movie. And it's kind of obvious that Kmart doesn't survive that cliffhanger because Claire doesn't bring her up at all along with Chris, but I'm actually okay with that because they illustrate that a long time has passed from the end of Afterlife to the beginning of this movie, and Claire said, these guys pulled me from the wreckage, so if there was anyone else that had survived, they would have been found too, most likely, and because of that long passage of time, Claire has had time to adjust to the fact that Kmart and Chris are most likely dead, and she's accepted that fact. So, the fact that there's no full explanation for those two, I'm okay with, but what I'm getting at is that Kmart technically didn't survive Afterlife, and even then she's only in Afterlife for like 5 minutes, so, don't know if you should really count that. And then Jill, well, here's the thing, as I said, Retribution doesn't really give too good of an explanation that Jill is, Jill. It's just a couple lines that you appear to infer from there. And also the fact that after Apocalypse, she was completely written off. And then in here, she's written off again with no real explanation. Really is just like a big slap of the face to the character. So it's just like, can you really count that? Even though the novelization for this movie indicates that the reason it's not set in Washington anymore is because Glasses was able to order a strike on the area that resulted in everyone that was there dying except for him and Alice. But here's the thing. I shouldn't need a book to explain how a movie is set up. You should not need a film novelization to help it expand on your movie. What should be in the movie is good enough, and then the book simply adds a little bit more detail because you can't transition from book to film or vice versa very well. Now, you can use a book form to make people appreciate a movie more, okay? Because that's what happened to me with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy and Titanic, okay? But, yeah. So what I'm just basically getting at is that Claire is pretty much the only person to have survived multiple movies, given what happens with Jill just, yeah. And then as the movie continued and how everyone makes their stand against the zombies, because like the tricks that Alice and company used against those zombies, that was really ingenious. Sure, it's pretty unlikely that they would work, but for a movie, just it reminded me of how the first three felt, so that was nice. And then returning to the hive again, going full circle, nice. And then the final confrontation of the villains, they did a couple things in there that I wasn't really expecting, so good on them. And then it had this tense feeling throughout most of the movie, that things were going to build up, and then when they built up and had that final battle, I was nervous for the good guys in those moments, even though, I will be honest, this movie did make it kind of obvious that all the good guys would die except for Alice and Claire, and that one of those two would likely die as well. But even then, it was still easy for me to watch it, and it reminded me of the first three, which is something that I was really glad about. And how it turned out, I'm okay with what it did, because there weren't too many loose ends, even though, as people pointed out, the air beasts really shouldn't still be alive at the end. I just would have rather they not shown up at all. Like, you could have easily had, Alice running off into the sunset or something cheesy like that, because she's right. It will take a while for that antivirus to spread around the planet, but also, at the beginning of this movie, it says that there's only 4,500 humans left. I don't know about you, but I'd wager that that's too low to sufficiently repopulate the planet. Because, I know every species needs a certain amount to, guarantee its survival, and 4,500 does not seem like enough. But what do I know? Yeah. But even though I do like how this movie ended out, I do know that it has some problems, because people in the comments have pointed out that the revelations that they describe in this movie don't line up with what they did in the second movie, and also, if Alice was all along a clone, that still doesn't really explain several bits that occur in the first movie, because if Alice is a clone, who the heck is Spence then? Is he a clone too? And you were planning all along for the T-virus thing to occur and then still be contained? Well, that seems to be quite a big leap of faith, relying on two people with completely independent thoughts going exactly the way that you hope they do, and then the team led by the black guy, I forget the actor's name right now, although a lot of people seem to recognize him, and I recognized him from Punisher Warzone. He seemed to indicate that Alice and Spence had been stationed at that position for a while then, and everything that I've read has indicated that there was, a batch of gas that caused Alice and Spence to become amnesiac, but just, it doesn't fully align up. There's still too many issues there. Now I know what you're thinking. Why am I pointing out all these dislikes when I said that I liked the movie? It's to show that I'm not a blind fanboy of it, okay? I fully acknowledge that it has its problems, but it was still better than the past couple of movies, because it brought the series back on track. It still has problems, but in this case it's better than Afterlife and Resurrection. Yeah. Or Retribution, I forget which one it is right now. Oh, yeah. Right. So it was a good way to end it, but I really do hope that this is the end, because, in my mind, Paul W. Anderson got real lucky in that people managed to respond more positively to this movie than the last couple. So whether I rank this, I'm kind of unsure about this, but I'm going to say for now that this is the third best of the whole franchise. I'm kind of unsure because I'm still a little unclear as to whether or not I definitively prefer this over Extinction or not. But I do know that the first two are better than this, and that Afterlife and Retribution are worse. That's for sure, yeah. So I'm going to give this the same ratings that I did for Extinction, and then leave it at that. And I do know for a fact that all 5 of the previous movies were worse than the one that came before it, which is why I was real nervous about this one. Well, so much for speeding that up, but I guess I had a lot to say about these. This was a lot of fun, despite the fact I did point out a lot of problems, so I'm probably going to rewatch these sparingly, but do I regret purchasing this and getting this off the bucket list? No. I had a much more pleasant experience with this than I did with a couple of the slasher movie franchises, even though I didn't really know what I was getting into when I watched those. This, I had an idea, sort of, yeah. See ya.